Bits TV. Wapya Munzi. Bits TV. Wapya Munzi.
The Takeover. Power
91.3 FM.
Lusaka.
Well, it's a beautiful Tuesday, the 3rd of June in the year 2025. Thank you so much for making time to join us this morning for a very special program that borders on the Constitution. I'm your host. My name is Andrew Mwansa. Now, the government of Zambia recently published the draft Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill of 2025, in which it proposes to increase the number of constituency seats from the current 156 to 211, in line with the Electoral Commission of Zambia's Delimitation report. Government maintains that it has no intentions regarding the constitutional amendment process and is urging citizens to review the bill and submit feedback within the next 30 days. Among other key proposals, the bill seeks to revise the number of nominated members of parliament, increasing the maximum to 10. It also outlines provisions for filing in vacancies in the candidate resignations and filing in of fresh nominations, and proposes the revision to the conduct of by-elections. This morning we focus on the proposal to increase the number of nominated members of parliament to 10. In studio, I'm privileged to be joined in by two lawyers. In studio, I'm joined in by Counsel Celestine Mukandila, Lusaka-based lawyer. Good morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Mukandila, for making time to be a part of us this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mata, and thank you very much for having me here.
I'm also privileged to be joined in by another counsel in Makwin Zaza. He's also a lawyer as well as a UPND media member. Counsel Makwin Zaza, good morning. Thank you so much for making time to be part of this program this morning. The program is live on Power FM. On Leveson, we are on 102.4 FM. In Kabwe, we are on 87.9 FM. And in Lusaka, we are streaming to you live on 91.3 FM. Also live on FM. On the Copper Belt, throughout the Copper Belt, we're on 89.7 FM. We're also live on Radio Delight. We are live as well on Breeze Esther. On Millennium Radio, we're live on 90.5 FM in Lusaka, 93.5 FM in Kabwe, and 93.9 FM in Kapirimposhi. We're also live on 100.1 FM in Ndola. We're equally live on Radio Chengelo, Radio KFM in Mansa, and as well as One Love Radio in Lusaka, and Mazabuka on 104.1 FM, and Mansa, One Love Radio is on 89.1 FM. In Kasama, we are on 94.9 FM. In Mongu, we are on 87.7 FM, and in Siavonga, we are on 91.5 FM. This program is also live on Baita FM. Gentlemen, let's begin the program. I would like to start with you, Mr. Celestine Mukandila, on what your thoughts are on the current process that government has embarked on to amend our constitution. Do you feel that this is the right process that government has initiated?
Well, thank you very much. And with regards to the process that government has embarked on, of course, it's a process that government feels in their own right. That is what is befitting them to wanting to amend the constitution. However, it's extremely important for us to understand that Zambia has got a jurisprudence as to how our constitutions have been amended from time immemorial. And the jurisprudential value or the historical value of the constitutional amendment process or the constitution making process in Zambia would always entail that the president would use the Inquiries Act to institute a commission of inquiry, and thereafter there are committees that are created for the sole purpose of ensuring that they collect views from the Zambian people, and also just to ensure that we create the relevant or necessary legitimacy required in the process of creating a constitution. Remember, the process of coming up with a constitution, as outlined in the preamble of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia, that is Act number 2 of 2016, Amendment Act number 2 of 2016, the preamble has indicated that we, the people, give unto ourselves a constitution, and therefore it has always been historical that there will be a process of consensus ad idem in the minds of people, whereby the Zambian people will bring in their submissions and ensure that this is an inclusive process, one that has got proper consultation, and the process of consulting the Zambian people through these reports or these committees is one that has given these constitutions or these constitutional amendments the legitimacy requires for this constitution. Now, the process government has embarked on, we must of course understand that the constitution only provides, should be in Article 79, it only provides for a process of coming up with or the amendment to the constitution, which is by way of two-thirds majority and all that process. As however, in terms of procedurally, we do not have a properly outlined process as to how a government or the Zambian people can amend the constitution. But it's extremely important that there is what we call a legitimate expectation that has since been created from the jurisprudence of how many of how the constitution has been amended ever since. So for me, I feel the process being adopted by the government is not inclusive. It is one that does not speak to the aspirations of the Zambian people. It actually flies in the teeth of the legitimate expectation that the Zambian people have in terms of a constitutional amendment. So it's extremely important to understand that we have, as a Zambian people, a legitimate expectation.
So according to you, this is an illegitimate process that the government has embarked on?
It's a process which creates illegitimacy in that the Zambian people have got a legitimate expectation as to how a constitution is amended in Zambia. So we have to look at the historical value. That's why we're saying there's a jurisprudential value as to how a constitution is amended in Zambia. So this has been there, and it's been very historical, by the way, from 1972, 1964, going to 1991 and 1996. All these amendments have taken a certain form, and that form has always included the process of ensuring that there is consultation based on terms of reference given as a result of the president effecting the provisions of the Inquiries Act. So that in itself, and the word to pick, the phrase to pick here is legitimate expectation. In fact, as a matter of fact, that gives the Zambian people a cause of action, because we are expecting that the process that government will adopt in order to amend the constitution is one that has always been in existence historically, devoid of the fact that there is no outright law that has provided specifically on how to come up with a constitutional amendment or a refining process.
Let me come to you, Council Mukandila. I'd like to get your thoughts on this process that government has embarked on. Is this a legitimate process? Do you think government has followed a right process in amending our constitution?
So much. Though the line is not very clear, I could not get what my other colleague was saying clear, but I picked one or two things. The process that the government has taken is a legitimate process. Where is that process coming from? Article 79. Article 79 gives power on how to amend the constitution. The preamble that is in constitution is not law. It is just aspirations. Those are just aspirations of the people of Zambia. So they do not form the basis of law. They are is in the Constitution, which government has not enforced. In terms of consultation, this government is on record. By different organizations, including the Law Association of that. So the desire within the Constitution. We should realize that Zambia was direct representative democracy as well as a direct democracy as well as a representative democracy. In terms of direct democracy, it is the people of Zambia acting directly. When do the people of Zambia act directly? Or participate directly in the amendment of the Constitution? When you look at Article 79, whenever you want to amend the Bill of Rights, which is by 3 of the laws of Zambia, Article 79 says go and consult which people through the referendum. However, when it comes to other provisions of the Constitution, other than Article 79 Bill and the Bill of Rights, you can use what is called representative democracy to amend the Constitution. So, in terms of process, the government has followed that process.
Just hold your thought just there. Council Mukandila, Council Zaza says that there's no law that has been broken. We're following the provisions of Article 79 that are very instructive and are very clear in the process of us amending the Constitution. Do you have another way that you're proposing that perhaps government should have embarked on in initiating this process of amending our Constitution?
You see, it's extremely important to understand that the process of amending the Constitution is different from that of amending an ordinary act. Why do I say it is different? It is because the Constitution is one document that is given by the people. It is the grand norm, for crying out loud. It is extremely important that we realize that unlike what Council Zaza has indicated, that the preamble of the Constitution are mere aspirations of the Zambian people, they are actually binding aspirations, as a matter of fact. Because when you look at Article 1 of the Constitution Amendment Act number 2, it actually provides for the supremacy of this Constitution. And therefore, it's extremely important that in a plethora of cases, you must have to understand that there are cases where the preamble of the Constitution have actually been cited to just reaffirm the fact that we gave ourselves a Constitution as a people. Now, the process of coming up with a Constitution requires acceptability. It requires legitimacy. Now, the legitimacy of the Constitution is one that is obtained or acquired from the Zambian people. Of course, you'll realize that these commissions that have been instituted previously to get the aspirations of the people have been done so to ensure that what we are giving ourselves as the people is a constitution that is widely accepted. And I'm sure everyone has been hearing people-driven constitution here and there. That is a concept of law where we have to get a people-driven constitution that acquires what we call the legitimacy of a democratic constitution. Now, remember, what we are seeing today is a process where government has actually come up with amendments. Now, therein lies a problem where we need to find out or investigate from this process to say...
Is it unlawful for government to come up with proposals?
It is not unlawful, but it does not give the legitimacy required. Remember, in my preamble, I actually indicated that there is a cause of action which is called legitimate expectation. Now, the process that has been from the jurisprudence of constitution making process or constitution amendment has since created a legitimate expectation. And in that vein, the Zambian people can actually take up a cause of action against the process that has been undertaken by the government today in amending this constitution. By the way, as a matter of fact, as we're talking today, I have a matter with my comrade, Honorable Munir Zulu. Before the Constitutional Court, we are challenging the process of this constitutional amendment process that the government has proposed on the basis of legitimate expectation, because we believe there is a legitimate expectation that has been created from historical background as to how we have come up with a constitution. We are not refusing that the mandate of the National Assembly is to enact legislation. The mandate of the National Assembly, as guaranteed by Article 79, is to amend this constitution by 2/3 majority. We are not refusing that. However, what we are saying is this constitution is given to us by the Zambian people. This constitution is not supposed to be given to us by the government of the UPND, or it's not supposed to be given to us by a clique of small individuals or people who have just decided to come up with these proposals. There's nothing wrong with letting the Zambian people give in their way as to what provisions should be touched or refined, as a matter of fact. Remember, I'll actually tell you that in these same proposals, for me, I feel there are certain proposals which should not have even been brought to the table. So it's extremely important that we look at the legitimacy.
As I bring in Council Mukandila, I would like to find out, you mentioning that here that you've dragged government to court, over this process. What basis, are you dragging government to court over? What law has government broken? I know you've given a historical overview of how the constitution has been amended. But what law are you using as a basis for dragging government to court?
Mr. Zaza will be aware that there is a cause of action called legitimate expectation. It is a cause of action. Of course, in Zambia, we have not really explored much of this law. However, we shall endeavor, using all legal means, to try and bring in this jurisprudence to our jurisdiction. And it's extremely important that the Zambian people must be appreciated for having given ourselves a constitution. The constitution must not be as a result of an aspiration of government individuals or cabinet. No, it must come from the Zambian people's aspiration. We give ourselves the constitution. Government, it should not be we, the cabinet of President Hainde, give unto ourselves the constitution. No. This same constitution gives power to the executive arm. This same constitution has evolved power into National Assembly. This same constitution gives power to the judiciary. So it is a constitution that we give unto ourselves. So the legitimacy of any given constitution in Zambia will come as a result of consultation, which must be broad-based. So there should be what we call broad-based consultation. There is nothing wrong with government subjecting this refining process of the Constitution or an amendment process of the Constitution to a broad-based consultative process by way of doing what previous regimes have done, wherein you use the Inquiries Act, you come up with terms of references, appoint a committee, and let them find out from the Zambian people which provisions have to be refined. There's nothing wrong with that. Besides, it even gives it more legitimacy. It gives it more credence, more credibility that it is a people-driven constitution. So, for me, I want to, of course, it may sound extremely academic, but it's a cause of action. A cause of action called legitimate expectation.
Councillor Mukandila, don't you think he has a point here that this constitution, these amendments lack legitimacy because of the fact that they've been they've been initiated by government as opposed to the people themselves.
Or there is no provision in our constitution that talks about we the people have this legitimate expectation. There is nothing like that in the constitution. Even the word legitimate expectation, you can peruse the constitution as it is right now, there is nothing like that. Once we gave ourselves 1991, with all these amendments that we had, is that we the people of Zambia, whenever we want to amend the constitution, we should go by way of Article 79. Any other structure that is created by an act of parliament, it is just there probably to gather views. But we have a lot of views that have been gathered from different commissions. And those views, at the end of the day, they culminate into a bill. And that bill is taken to parliament. Parliament is mandated to make the law. So even when council there is saying we are moving court, we are moving the constitutional court to by suing government, saying that this government has failed the legitimate expectation of the people of Zambia. That in itself is a brought-in dead petition. It is going nowhere. We have a number of cases in this country where the courts have pronounced themselves on this issue. We have the Kumbula. We have the Kumbula versus the Attorney General. The court there said that you cannot sue government on a bill because a bill is a mere proposal. Our friends in 2016, I think, before 2016 amendment, we went to court. The Law Association of Zambia, Chapter 1 Foundation and others. This is the Attorney General. They tested the law again. The Constitutional Court still says you cannot go to court and challenge a bill because a bill is a mere proposal. So, in terms of what our colleagues are taking to court saying the legitimate expectation is not the law. Those are moral arguments. Those are moral arguments. And you don't take moral arguments to court. You take legal. What part of the Constitution? What part of the Constitution has been broken by government in coming up with this bill? Yes, the answer is there is nothing that has been broken. The Constitution has not been breached in any possible way. Secondly, there is this thing where people say that no, this bill has been introduced by executive. Is it not the duty of the executive to introduce bills? It's their mandate. That's what the Constitution says. Even the one that you, Mukandila, and PF brought in 2016, is it emanated from the executive? The people you eat and drink with. That's what it's emanated from. And it went through the process of the legislative process until the Constitution was amended. So where is the problem? We should not be reading the Constitution using moral lenses. We should read the Constitution using legal lenses and not partisan lenses or any other lenses. So bills are initiated. You can tell me which constitutional bill in Zambia was never initiated by the executive. Tell me. All the bills starting from 1973, they were initiated by the executive. So tell me the constitutional bill, any constitutional bill that has never been initiated by the executive. How do they initiate those bills? They initiate those bills by getting proposals, getting insight from the people of Zambia. Have this government gotten insight and proposals from the people of Zambia? Yes, they've gotten insight from big organizations such as the Law Association of Zambia, the Economic Association of Zambia, these other bodies, and civil society groups. They got all those things, all those views, and they are still getting all those views. What I can challenge Mukandila is that go with those your good insights, take them to Parliament. There will be a select committee that will be constituted. Take those views to Parliament so that we can see how best we can have these amendments. They are Otherwise, to argue morally is a disservice to the people of Zambia. The people of Zambia have already told us. We, the people of Zambia, through our representatives, give ourselves this constitution. This constitution has Article 79. Article 79 tells you how the constitution, should you want to amend it, should be amended. There is no other law in Zambia other than Article 79.
Yeah.
Not even a moral argument can be used to amend the constitution.
Let's get to another aspect of this conversation, Councillor Mukandila. Obviously, government has given a period of 30 days in which consultations, have to be made, and people, go and submit what they think must be removed or must be added. Do you think this 30-day period for consultation is meaningful enough for consensus building by stakeholders?
The 30 days actually is a lot. My brother, there are certain provisions there that even within 2 seconds, they can even be agreed upon within 2 seconds. For example, there is a proposal to amend Article 1032. Article 1032 talks about the presidential petition. So, in the current constitution, the constitutional court can hear the presidential petition within 14 days, but it is not mandated to determine that petition within 14 days. The proposal in the bill is that Article 103, Clause 2 be amended so that it includes the hear and determine. So the proposal there is that the word determine should also be part of the hearing. So you hear and determine within 90 days, so within 14 days. How can that take more than 40 days? Sure. Most of those provisions that they've got are things that can be determined within 30 days. So, in my view, the 30 days
so in your reasoning,
in addition to the consultation,
I meant to believe. Councillor Mukandila, I meant to believe that you mean that we don't need wider consultation if we have to do this, exercise within 30 days, because this country is vast, and I don't think we can reach all the corners of this country within a period of 30 days. And so
that's a very good question. South Africa is much bigger than Zambia, yet they had a constitutional amendment that took only 10 days. And what was the constitutional amendment? Because that constitutional amendment was that they should include sign language as a language in the constitution. That amendment just took a consultation of only less than 10 days, and the South African constitution was amended as such. Did they go to the 69 million people to consult? No. Even here in Zambia, it is not possible to consult each and every individual, the 20 million that we are. It is not possible to consult each and every person, and we are not going to have people agreeing on everything. It's not possible. You will never have a situation where everyone is agreeing on everything. It's not possible. It's not a possible thing. So, these amendments that government has proposed, most of them, they come from court, decisions of court, where the courts have even said that to make this constitution better, because there are theories that go with amendments. One of the theories that goes with amendments is to refine the constitution, is to make it governable, to help the constitution, to help the constitution become a better tool for governance. How are we helping the constitution, or these proposals, how are they going to help this country to be a tool of a better, to better the governance? When you are going to hear a presidential petition to hear and determine a presidential petition within 14 days, isn't that a better way of dealing with things? Because it brings about certainty. You and me as voters will know in 2026 that should there be a presidential petition, we know with certainty that that presidential petition will be heard. The parties will be heard. And the judgment will be delivered by court within 14 days.
Within 14 days.
Should there be a a parliamentary, or we should not be parliamentary petitions in 2026. It is known with certainty that those petitions are going to be heard and determined within 90 days. Isn't that a good way of, isn't that a better way of dealing with things, unlike leaving things to speculation?
Council Celestine Mukandila, others argue that this is not a constitutional making process. This is merely a constitutional amendment. And so 30 days is enough for us to agree and amend our constitution.
You see, like I indicated earlier on, we are dealing with the constitution. We are not dealing with an ordinary act of parliament. Consensus and broad-based consensus is extremely important when you're coming up with a constitution. You see, in as much as they may sound very academic, these are legal principles that we need to look at. Earlier on, I indicated the fact that there is a legitimate expectation created. I would refer my colleague to try and be guided by the Court of Appeal in the case of Zambia Electronic Clearance House Limited versus James Kalengo, which explicitly explained what legitimate expectation is in reference to government authority, or in fact an authority that is given an expectation. Now, our colleagues have been indicating issues to do with certainty. It's unfortunate, by the way, that the law does not deal with fantastic probabilities, but with reasonable possibilities. And that is why I'm looking at the fact that there's a legitimate expectation that has always been created, in the process of coming up with a constitution. Now, our colleagues are talking about certainty of law. The reality behind this is, in 2016, there was an election petition, and we were guided by the Constitutional Court as to what it means to hear and determine a matter, or a constitutional court matter of a petition, an election petition, an election petition of a presidential election. So we have since been guided. It no longer is problematic. As long as, you see, we are lawyers, we shall not operate on emotions, or perhaps on the premise of who is paying your bills with regards to this. But the law has to take effect. When it comes to a constitution, and provisions such as the ones that deals with 14 days, for example, it's a settled matter. The Constitutional Court has already given guidance. That remains law. The same issue as the example I'll give with regards to a provision that deals with ministers leaving office, or as the case may be.
Before we digress, my concern is on the 30-day period for consultation.
So my take is, if government is going to come up with a system that will allow it to ensure that persons submit their recommendations, and there is wider consultation made, and the consultation ought to be one that engages stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders include, as a matter of fact, the Law Association of Zambia, which Law Association of Zambia, Council Zaza keeps referring to as having backed this amendment, and has since U-turned, as long as the position of the Law Association of Zambia is that this is a bad bill. We do not have enough time to consult broadly and widely. That is the position of the Law Association of Zambia. It shall not come from past experiences or past submissions. No, the current and most recent submission, inclusive of that of the Oasis Forum, of which the Law Association of Zambia is party to, they've indicated that we do not have sufficient time. 30 days may not be sufficient to consult the Zambian people. Remember, consultation has to be broad-based. It should not be where our colleagues just decide to go and consult a few chiefs in Luapula or in Namwala, and they think they have consulted. They must consult all the stakeholders, including civil society organizations. The only civil society organization in Zambia that backed this amendment was NGOCC. As of yesterday, they have decided to indicate that this does not live up to the aspirations of Zambians because there is less consultation that has been done ever since. And it appears as though the government does not want to consult any further. NGOCC has given its position. And it's not only NGOCC that has given its position. The church has given its position that there is no enough time for the consultation process. Now, we must understand, and which I will actually agree with Councillor Zaza, that there is no specific time limit provided for in the law. Neither is there a specific time limit provided for consultation and for coming up with an act, or even for amending the constitution. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it's extremely important that we agree, both in principle and at law, that the Constitution of Zambia, under the preamble of the Constitution, states that we, the Zambian people, give unto ourselves the Constitution. So the Zambian people must be consulted. It does not end at what Councillor Zaza is calling a democratic legitimacy coming from the...
How much time do you need?
Council, you and I will agree that we've since been given... We've since been given guidance from the Constitutional Court as to what it means to hear and determine.
Perhaps let me guide.
It's a settled argument. We are lawyers. Like as a matter of fact, maybe I'm holding the floor as counsel and as a member of the Law Association of Zambia. We are professionals. We are lawyers. We are bound by decisions of the court. There is nothing I can do, whether I go to heaven or hell, to change a decision of the court that has been given to me. Especially that we've got a constitutional court which is a court of finality. So the constitutional court has given guidance to us, the Zambian people, as well as us. If anything, we've got an inherent duty to abide by constitutional constitutional court decisions more than any other person. The Constitutional Court has guided us to say 14 days is 14 days. We shall have to hear and determine a constitutional election, a presidential petition within 14 days. So it's up to us as lawyers to ensure that as and when you are faced with such a scenario where a petition is filed in, ensure that you do not do a disservice to your client and ensure that you deliver within 14 days. It's as clear as that.
Don't you think, Councillor Mukandila, these amendments lack legitimacy on the premise of the fact that key stakeholders have highly rejected, this Bill 7, the Law Association of Zambia, now NGOCC, Chapter 1 Foundation, the church mother bodies, the Council of Catholic Bishops, and so many several organizations, Transparency International Zambia, and so many, several organizations that you can mention. Don't you think, by virtue of the fact that civil society organizations have highly rejected this bill, government must reflect and perhaps withdraw it with immediate effect?
Thank you so much for that question. To start with, those organizations that you've mentioned are not key stakeholders. The key stakeholders to any constitution are the people of Zambia as an aggregate. So all of us, the people of Zambia, are key stakeholders. The mere fact that certain people are speaking through organizations doesn't mean or doesn't give them the legitimacy to say that they are key stakeholders in the constitutional making process. The key stakeholders in the constitutional making process are the people of Zambia. It is a people's document. So,
at least we agree on that one, Council.
For example, when we talk about the legitimacy, what do we mean? Legitimacy simply means loyalty. Is this constitutional amendment going to bring about loyalty, respect, and obedience from the people of Zambia? The answer is yes, it will. Are those organizations that you just mentioned in the majority? They are not. Let's start with the Law Association of Zambia. I must put it here on record that the Law Association of Zambia never consulted its members as to whether or not we agree with the bill. That has never happened. So the voice that you must have heard from the Law Association of Zambia represent the person or the people who went on radio or wherever they went to speak about their own opinions, not the opinions of the members of the association. The members of the association were never consulted by council.
Just on that, Councillor Makwinzaza, you give an example. Just hold on. You give an example of how, for example, Zambia is a representative democracy, and we represent our leaders to represent us, and that entails that whatever they say is the reflection of what we, the people, have agreed collectively. Don't you think
maybe?
Don't you think it's the same? You elected Lungisani Zulu as your president, as Laz.
The opinion that Laz gave was on behalf of the members of the association by virtue of them being our leaders. Therefore, government, why do you want government to go and consult the people who it represents?
I think it's extremely important that
let him finish.
So we should not have double standards. For association, the standard is this one. For government, the standard is this one. This government, over and above, has gone to get consultation from this same association. The only problem with this association is that they wanted to drive the constitution-making process. You understand? And because they were not given or afforded that opportunity, they are now in opposition of that, of the things that they already proposed. When you look at the document that the Law Association of Zambia presented to the Minister of Justice, you will discover that most, if not all, the provisions that are in this bill came from that document. Clear and determined, you'll find it in that document. Proportional representation, you'll find it in that document. So why should they say that? Why should they today say that this document is better than Bill 10? When most of the provisions that are in Bill 10 came from them. So we should learn to be sincere.
All right.
So the same yardstick that you want government to follow should be followed by these associations, like LAD, Economic Association, and these other associations, including church father bodies. I was never consulted by anyone. I'm a strong Catholic. I was never consulted by any bishop or any priest in my church on my views regarding the constitution-making process. So where did they get those themselves?
So that's from. All right. So
where did they get the feeling that we are getting?
You see,
let me just open the phone lines now.
Yeah, maybe before we can open the phone lines, maybe it's also important that I may have to remind Councillor Zaza that we are professionals and we represent a wider section of society, and our opinions are actually very much respected by the Zambian people as professionals. Now, I may have to remind Councillor Zaza that therein lies the principle of collective responsibility. That is a principle of law that indicates that decisions that are made by those in authority in a group or cabinet, or as the case may be, will bind everyone. Even if I do not agree with that, a decision made shall bind me. So the Law Association of Zambia, upon making consultation, if Council Zaza was not consulted, well and good, but upon making consultation, decided that the process of coming up with a constitution that government has adopted is not a favorable decision, and therefore the Law Association of Zambia, having been mandated by the law to ensure that they protect and defend the Constitution, and also having been mandated by Section 4 of the Law Association of Zambia Act to ensure that they represent the aspirations of Zambians, they decided that this is a flawed process. So the Law Association of Zambia has given its position that this is a flawed process. The NGOCC has given its position that this is a flawed process. The church has given its position that this is a flawed process.
Council is asking whether Laz, consulted you.
Like I indicated, there is a principle of law called collective responsibility. Whether I was consulted or not, whether I agree or not, I am bound by collective responsibility. I am a professional with loyalty that is placed at my association, as a matter of fact.
Even when the association is wrong.
However, no, there are channels in which we address such, as a matter of fact. But we're looking at a people's constitution. Council Zaza is on record indicating that this is the people's constitution. We shall not argue on the basis of emotions, as a matter of fact. We will argue on the basis of principles of law. Now, the principle of law we've outlined here is that of legitimate expectation. Now, it's a broad-based principle which requires that you look at the jurisprudential value, the historical value of how constitutions have been made or amended in Zambia. And it has been that there's always been consultation which has been broad-based. Now, this consultation has been made from or acquired from civil society organizations as a stakeholder. The Zambian people, where you're just looking at, for example, Marketeers Association of Zambia as a stakeholder, the chiefs in Zambia as stakeholders. Now, we need, in 30 days that government has given us, we need to explain to our people in chiefdoms as to what these provisions entail. Now, these provisions have to be interpreted. I'm very sure and certain that government may have interpreted these provisions in different local languages, the main 7 local languages that we have. However, our chiefs have to be explained to with regards to what is contained. For example, we've got the UPNG lying to the Zambian people that an election, we have gotten rid of by-elections, or perhaps we've gotten rid of an expense to elections, or because of by-elections, when a by-election is created on a member of parliament. That is a lie. When you look at the content of the provision of that bill, they proposed the bill. Is it proposal number 9? Is it section 9 of the bill? It will tell you that Electoral Commission of Zambia, for example, is supposed to be informed by the Speaker of the National Assembly. The information to the Electoral Commission of Zambia in itself entails that the Electoral Commission of Zambia, by way of constitutional decree, is given a mandate to handle an election in that political party to ensure that they elect a representative who's going to occupy that seat. That provision, for example, deals with an affirmative action to ensure that there is guarantee that when you have a seat in the National Assembly from a general election, that seat as a political party, you maintain that seat as your own. If there comes a point of a vacancy, you still replace as a political party. However, the constitutional amendment provision, which has proposed an amendment, where our colleagues were thinking they wanted to get rid of by-elections or costs, the cost implication. This suggests otherwise. It suggests that there is need for Electoral Commission of Zambia to be informed, and when Electoral Commission of Zambia is informed, the party which has lost a seat, has acquired that vacancy, will replace the member of parliament. In itself, it tells that the Electoral Commission of Zambia will have the conduct of the election. Now, does that not let the Zambian people lose money, as a matter of fact? So we have come to a point where the Zambian people are being lied to, that we've gotten rid of by-elections, or perhaps the cost involved in by-elections by our colleagues. But when you look at the provision, it tells you something else. It simply shows that our colleagues are living in a bubble of their own imagination. At some point, I was telling my colleagues to say, we may have to start examining our leadership and ensuring that we try and see whether schizophrenia may be correct to administer to them. So we might need to look at these provisions and ensure that we tell the Zambian people the truth.
Okay. Just hold your thought there. Just hold your thought, Councillor Mukandila. I'll be coming to you. The phone lines are now open. You can call us on 0955 997 997. That's 0955 997 997. You can also call us on 0979 192 4825. 0979 192 485. The other one is 0955 997 and 997. Councillor Mukandila.
what my brother is talking about is not provided for in the amendment bill.
Section 9, Council, Section 9 which provides for Section 9 which provides for
just hold, gentlemen.
Where there is a vacancy, okay? Where there is a vacancy.
Council, are we ready? Are we able to read the provision so that we don't mislead Zambians?
No, it's important to read them.
Yeah, the provision says.
Just
allow me to read for you, Council.
Let him submit, then we can read.
The commission is the one who is going to conduct that election.
Council, can I read it for you? It says, where a vacancy occurs in the National Assembly for a member of Parliament, the Speaker shall, within 7 days of the occurrence of the vacancy, inform the Electoral Commission of Zambia of the vacancy in writing, and the political party that sponsored the member who held the seat shall elect another person to replace that member to assume that seat in the National Assembly. Council, why drag in the Electoral Commission of Zambia if they are not being given a mandate to conduct the elections of a member in the process of replacement? The law is clear. Now, I would refer this provision to the existing provision which provides for election of a leader of opposition in the National Assembly. That provision equally provides that a political party with the highest number of seats, will deal with.
Zambia is not going to conduct itself into that election. What the Electoral Commission of Zambia is going to do is that it's going to leave the election of that person to the party. So once the party does, it will give the nominated candidate to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Where is the cost there?
Council, I want to refer you to the guidance of the court.
Let him finish his submission so that we can proceed. Yes, Councillor Mukandila.
Yes. So where is the cost that government is going to suffer from such a provision? Nothing. Anyway,
we may have to refine this provision.
To explain that provision simply, for the sake of my colleagues and other people who might read that provision differently, what will happen there is that the Speaker, where there is a vacancy, the Speaker will notify the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Similarly, even today, whenever there is a vacancy, the Speaker informs the Electoral Commission of Zambia. In the proposed bill, the Speaker informs the Electoral Commission of Zambia of that vacancy. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, after it is notified, it will tell that party which is affected to elect a candidate. Once that candidate is elected, the name of that candidate is floated back to ETZ. How that candidate will be elected is up to the party, but the name will be floated to ETZ within a certain prescribed time. ETZ is going to have that person as an elected member of Parliament. That's all. Where is the cost that the government is going to incur in that kind of an arrangement?
Let's get to hear what the people are saying. Just hold your thought right there, Councillor Mukandila.
Let's read without emotion.
Let's get to hear what people are saying now. Just hold your thought right there.
When reading the Constitution.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Very well, who's on the line and where are you calling us from?
You are talking to Lawrence Kamara in the room.
Okay, go ahead with your contribution.
I think we are missing a point. That's why when we as callers, I think before we participate to this debate going on the table or discussion going on the table, we're supposed to read some clauses that can help us to understand this. As you are going to participate, I think you have full of information around you, so it helps. I've seen people that are just trying to defend something that is not right, because like the council is explaining, it's right. Why involving ETZ? where the internal matters for that particular political party which has lost or which has been vacant in parliament. Why can't the party do its own party without the particular participation of the Electoral Commission of Zambia? So for the Electoral Commission of Zambia being involved, meaning the by-election, there are the resources that the government is going to spend to make sure that the Electoral Commission of Zambia is being sponsored to do what? To run the affairs of that particular internal political elections. So it's still a by-election because there will be resources that will be spent on that particular occasion. So for me, why is government, this government is saying it's a listening government, why are they in hurry to enact these laws? Even this time around, when we talk of the limitation issue that they want to bring in constitution and like, where were they? Where did they miss this point in 2021 when they were actually in government? You're supposed to do what just there and then, instead of increasing the CDF. You're supposed to work on the limitation issue for them to do that. Okay, because of this, really, let's do some limitations to make sure that CDF is reaching every corner of this nation. But now they miss that point. They increase the CDF. For me, the best of it is supposed to be that, okay, now the CDF is to that maximum. Let's come up with it. What the development funds. That's how making also sure that resources are reached to the last single person of this plan. So that's my thought.
All right, thank you so much for coming through. All right, that's our first call. You too could be a part of the conversation by calling us on 0955 997 997. That's 0955 997 997, as well as 0979 192 485. Those are the two magic numbers that you can call us on. We have another caller. Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Where is from?
You're talking to Gregory Peter Chisha.
Mr. Gregory Peter Chisha.
Council, good morning. Yeah, I just have a concern regards the delimitation proposal, the bill number 7. As we are speaking right now, ECZ, let me say the government, because this is a report, a report whose contents or recommendations Zambians are not aware, and how logically sound is this that we may even be discussing the delimitation process without knowing the contents or recommendations of the ECZ. As you may be aware, 2019 we never saw that report from ECZ, and if transparency was really a big thing, I thought it would have been appropriate if they made 2019 delimitation report available before coming up with a special report. I think it's important that we demand this report as citizens, because we have the right to know which boundary is going to be, realigned, cut. Citizens must have that information, and I think this could be the best platform to just place those demands, council and other districts out there. We must know the content of the delimitation reports. Otherwise, discussing the delimitation process, the absence of the report is quite speculative. I thought I should make that submission. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Gregory Chisha, for coming through. Let's see if we can pick the last call in this set of calls. 0955 997 997. That's the number that you can use to call us on. We have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, mwa sevenza bwanji wa moderator.
Bwino mwa sevenza bwanji nikamba na wandani ndi mtumira kuti.
Mukamba na bamugwagwa batumira kwa mandevu.
Hello? Yes, Mugwagwa.
kubwera ku topic, I think delimitation wasogolera efunika. Ine sinizirwa kuti bantu batucha bwanji, bintu very straightforward. Muona makonstituency enango ni akuru maningi. For example, kuno kwa Mandevu. Kuno development siriko kutoka na kudala. Kwa wadandaula kuti CTF ndalama zamene zibwera kuno nizing'ono. 36 yamene zibwera kuno kulingana na Mandevu constituency nikuru. Then government yaganiza kuti ibo vitu vichitike na waisi zetu. Then watu hamba kususi. Nanga development izaenda bwanji kusogolo. Number 2. Bill 7 ilitape bwino. Tuta increase bazimai parliament. Nichani toipa. Paripe toipa. So temetifuna yani Bill 7 ipite itandizire wantu wa Zambia. Ili yameti dandala kuti time ya chepachani. Na free education rezo kamba so tabe kuti sivinga chitiki. Wamene wakanyana beauty. But the same people are benefiting now na free education rezo kukana. Please one, keti pake ziko pasogoro. Ziko aka viri voice ni ma politics. Ya bintu viri bwino ni ma politics. No. So it's a depend on my MP to parliament. Beauty. Nakulo kwa Mandevu. MP wasifuna Bill 7 ipite. Mara mudari mujani bwino maningi. Paripe so ipa. I think ndiye contribution yanga wa moderator. Ziko mwambiri.
Let me start with you. Your reactions, Councillor Mukandila. I think the first caller came in to find out why the rush. Why can't we wait for the next general election? But also the second caller came in to question the report by the Electoral Commission of Zambia on delimitation. Why has it been kept closer to the chest of the Electoral Commission of Zambia chairperson?
I'll answer the first question. Why the rush? There is no rush. Actually, this process has taken a lot of months. There is no rush to this process. And there is no law that stops any government to make a law before an election. Remember, in 1991, the constitutional process started sometime in 1990. That process brought about the 1991 Constitution. And there was an election. 2016, before the 2016 election, didn't we have this, an amendment to the Constitution? And we had an election. Actually, at that particular point, the incumbent president was just 1 year, 6 months into power. 1 year, 6 months, or 1 year, 4 months into power. And there was that amendment. That amendment saw us having, which ushered the 2016 election. So the 2016 elections were based on the 2016 constitutional amendment. So there is nothing, in terms of time, there is no law that stops any government from amending the law towards an election. And what we are amending right now, what is being proposed to be amended right now, is to make the Constitution a better tool for governance. So that we cannot have a lot of political cases being fought in courts. It's not a healthy thing. Let's have a clean document that is going to usher a good governance system. And that's all that we are looking at. So there is no rush. All those people are saying there's a rush. There is no rush. Because even the law does not provide for whether you can have an amendment before an election, or you cannot have an amendment before an election.
Is it a matter of consent to you? Is it a matter of consent?
Anything that we do, we should base them on the law.
Councillor Mukandila, is it a matter of concern to you that up until now, the Electoral Commission of Zambia has not released the delimitation report? Because we don't know where these constituencies have been delimitated from. We hear that they already have been. Aren't you concerned that the ECZ has kept this report close to their chest?
The ECZ actually has released the report to the Minister of Justice. So let's wait for the Minister of Justice to release the report. I'm sure the report will be released on the floor of the House when Parliament convenes. So there's nothing secretive about that report. But the report was released to the
Minister of Justice.
Yes.
Councillor Celestine Mukandila.
Yeah, thank you very much to the callers. Thank you very much. It shows that people are following what we are discussing. Of course, I would first start with just concluding on the point with regards to the involvement of the Electoral Commission of Zambia in the so-called no by-election, the amendment that our colleagues intend to bring to the fore. So I would want the Zambian people not to be lied to by this government or anyone who is associated with this bill. I want to read this provision again for the benefit of a doubt, of any doubting Thomas remaining, so that we know that the only thing that has been left or that has been changed is just the semantics, and they've just guaranteed a seat in the National Assembly by a political party, and not the fact that we'll have an election. It says, let me read again, it says, where a vacancy occurs in the National Assembly for a member of Parliament, the Speaker shall within 7 days of the occurrence of the vacancy inform the Electoral Commission of Zambia of the vacancy in writing, and the political party that sponsored that member who held the seat shall elect another person to replace that member to assume the seat in the National Assembly. The proposed law is clear. What the UPND is preaching to the Zambian people is within a bubble of their own imagination. What is contained in the act is different from what in this proposal is different from what the UPND are telling the Zambian people. It is a lie that there will be no by-election, or perhaps that there will be no cost on the coffers of the government. Now, going further, just to buttress this provision, I wanted to bring to the attention of the Zambian people that there is a provision that deals with election of the election of leader of opposition, which equally talks or speaks to election. The Speaker of the National Assembly informs the party with the highest number in opposition to elect. It does not bring in the issue of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. And the courts have been very categorical on this to say it becomes a sole mandate of the party to elect its own person. How they do it is none of their issue, as long as you inform the Speaker that this is the person we've selected. That is what we should have thought that the government would have brought out, so that we completely avoid a by-election or perhaps a cost on the coffers of government. But introducing ECZ simply means that ECZ has been mandated constitutionally to handle this election. Now, going further, but the submission by the Electoral Commission of Zambia of that delimitation report to government, for me, I'll actually
just there, maybe a little bit of some clearance on what this really means, because it says where a vacancy occurs in the National Assembly for a member of Parliament, the Speaker shall within 7 days of the occurrence of the vacancy inform the Electoral Commission of the vacancy in writing, and the political party that sponsored the member who held that seat shall elect another person to replace that member to assume that seat in the National Assembly. It says that the political party will elect.
Exactly. So this in itself.
But the Speaker will inform
the Electoral Commission of Zambia. So this in itself has now substituted any other engagement of any other political party from this election. So there is guarantee of a seat that you acquire from a general election, whether you like it or not. When there's a vacancy created, for example, in Lumezi, UPN do not participate. It remains a seat for, if it's Mfue, it remains a seat for the Patriotic Front. That's what this is trying to cure. That is what it's trying to cure. However, going to the issue of the Electoral Commission of Zambia report on delimitation, for me, my opinion, by the way, is that, and it's a personal opinion, is that the submission of the report to to the government by the Electoral Commission of Zambia of the delimitation process is actually a white screen or a green screen. It's neither here nor there. It's not even supposed to. The Electoral Commission of Zambia is constitutionally mandated to delimit. The Electoral Commission of Zambia is constitutionally mandated to delimit. This report is neither here nor there. In terms of the delimitation provided for in the law right now, it provides that every 10 years, the Electoral Commission of Zambia can delimit the boundaries. Now, I think it's important that our colleagues equally start understanding what the law says now and what is required of the law. These colleagues are working in reverse. They are trying to work with proposals, which proposals would have taken effect had it been that we've got an amended constitution. But the principle of leadership requires that there should be transparency and accountability. That's what governance requires. But why are you not telling the Zambian people, if the Electoral Commission of Zambia is a public institution, why not tell the Zambian people to say, these are the recommendations, these are the constituencies that we intend to divide as a form of delimitation? However, the Electoral Commission of Zambia still has the right to delimit these constituencies. Now, let me bring it to the attention of the Zambian people that Article 279 has provided for a constituency development fund. Has provided for a constituency development fund. Now, this same provision of the law does not indicate the amount or how the distribution ought to be done. Now, our colleagues have been saying there has not been equitable distribution of fund, which is the CDF. But what I will tell you is, it is a matter of policy, and we may have.
Council Mukandila is now going on things that are not part of the topic.
So we may have to understand that our colleagues must not.
We are not looking at
our colleagues.
proposed by government.
Our colleagues.
Just hold your thought. Just hold your thought right there, councils. And I think it brings us to another issue that we must really deal with this morning. One of the proposed amendments seeks to revise Article 62, 68, sub-Article 2B to increase the number of nominated members of Parliament. I would like to first of all start with you, Councillor Mukandila, on what you make of this amendment.
So, this amendment in itself brings about an increment in the number of nominated MPs. Remember, for you to have what has been the understanding behind bringing or having nominated members of Parliament. So we'll start from the 1964 Constitution. In 1964, the provision for nominated MP was provided for in that Constitution. How that was done was that it had no cap. So the president could nominate however or whatever number of people the president felt like appointing. But when we came to the Mbunga, to the 1972 Constitution, which is the one-party state Constitution, the nominated number of MPs was capped to 3. So the president could only nominate up to 3 members of Parliament. Now, what was the underlying principle around having this issue of having nominated MPs? So, one of the issues that came about, especially when you look at the Chona Commission, the Mbunga Commission, is that nominated MPs bring about what is called a good representation by way of bringing experts to Parliament. So nominated MPs strengthen Zambia's democracy by allowing the inclusion of individuals who may not have contested in an election, but possess certain specialized skills or expertise in government governance, law, engineering, economics, and other critical fields. So that is the basis, one of the bases upon which the issue of nominated MPs was brought about. The other reason why we have nominated MPs is to strike a balance. To strike a balance between democracy, representative democracy, and meritocracy. How is that achieved? While elected MPs represented the direct will of the people, nominated MPs serve as a bridge between popular representation and the need of specialized skills in governance. So, from 1973 Constitution, there was a cap of 3. But that itself was said not to be enough. That's why when we went to 1991 increased the nominated MPs from 3 to 8. In 2016, that amount still remains, the number of nominated MPs still remains at 8. So now, why is this government proposing 10? It is proposing 10 because we want to improve the quality of MPs that come through this platform, through their expertise, through their experience. That's one. 2, when you look at Article 69, the basis upon which the president can appoint these appointed, can nominate these MPs is 1, to bring about skill, gender, and interest groups. When you look at the composition or the quality of the nominated MPs currently appointed by His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, you will discover that he has fulfilled that mandate. We have engineers such as Engineer Kapala, Engineer Milopi. We have accountants such as Felix Mutaji. We have gender. He has answered in terms of gender. We have Mrs. Mazoka, Mutinda Mazoka. We have Dolini Mwaku. In terms of special interest, we also have people from different regions. So the president has fulfilled this. So honestly, to just add 2 more cannot in itself be said to be too much. Actually, these nominated MPs, should this amendment go through, it will only represent 4% of the elected MPs, whether by way of constitutional base or proportional representation. Because when you add constituency-based MPs, which is 211, plus proportionally elected MPs, which is going to be 35, you are going to have 46 members. 4% of that is 8. So it is 10. So that is even far below the influence that the president can even have in parliament. But what he's trying to bring about is that he wants to bring this expertise, skill, experience in parliament. The problem that I seem to think people have, that this provision of nominated MP, previously it was abused by different governments by bringing all sorts of people who lacked the skills, who lacked the expertise, but they were brought as nominated MPs. But when you look at the way Mr. Hichilema has appointed his nominated MPs, the 8 nominated MPs, you would agree with me that he actually brought quality to parliament. Look at the quality of the Minister of Infrastructure, Mr. Milopi, Honorable Milopi. Look at the quality that Honorable Felix Mutaji has brought. Look at the quality which Elias Mubanga has brought. Look at the quality that Honorable Kapala has brought to parliament. That is within, or that is what was envisaged by the people of Zambia when they said we should have nominated them. So increasing by 2 means the president just wants to increase so that we can have a better parliament for the purpose of good governance.
The Constitution, Council Mukandila, in Article 68 and 69 is very instructive and very clear that the President may nominate a person referred to Article 68, Part 2. Article 68, Part 2 says that the President will nominate not more than 8 nominated members of Parliament where the President considers it necessary to enhance the representation of special interest, skills, or gender in the National Assembly. Do you think that over the years, the people that have been given these positions in form of nomination by the President have fulfilled these constitutional requirements? But also, I'd like to pick your thoughts on the decision to increase the number of nominated members of Parliament. Have the people in the different, constitutional commission reviews spoken that we need the President to appoint more people in Parliament?
Well, with regards to the nomination, I cannot agree any further with Councillor Makwinza's submission. I think I wish to adopt that as my own. However, looking at the provision of the particular article, which looks at special interest, skills, or gender, I think on this one, the President's appointment seemed to lag behind, because when you look at the nominations that are there, representation of special interests, for example, such as differently abled persons, is not represented. Nominations such as on the part of gender is misrepresented, or should I say there is very only 25% of that appointed. Representations of special interests such as those of the youths is actually not speaking to that. However, it must be understood. Yeah, it must be understood, like councils as I indicated, that the main purpose behind having nominated members of Parliament was to ensure that skill and having professionals to handle these seats are placed in these positions. But it's also important to understand that there are issues to do with special interests. The youths are not represented. We can actually have professionals who are youthful, who can be represented on the basis.
What about Honorable Mfalali? He was actually the National Youth Chairperson of the UPND. Being National Youth Chairman does not mean that. You see what the process is in this country, and it must be understood as such. A person who's a National Youth Chairman in political parties may not even be a youth. I will tell you that, as a matter of fact, I'm in my last age of a youth. I'm 35. But others who are National Youth Chairmen in these political parties may not even be close to being youths. But however, it's been a trend that any person can be appointed as a National Youth Chairperson. But the reality is, I think it's extremely important, like Councillor Zaza indicated, we must speak to skill, we must speak to representation, which is genuine representation of special interest groups. Yeah, so I think on this, that's what I can indicate. However, in an event, the process of increasing the number of nominated members of Parliament, to me, I would actually say it would allow a president. I know that when this came up, this was one of the most contentious, proposal, because I think when the minister gave her speech in Parliament, she says that these nominated members of Parliament will be provided for by an Act of Parliament, and there's a lot of fear that was raised that there'll be so many people.
Exactly.
That,
it was extremely.
Are you happy that it's been made very clear in the final draft of this bill?
That is why I've indicated that it's extremely important that our colleagues must be reading these documents before they can communicate to the Zambian people. The communication that was given by the minister was misplaced, as a matter of fact. But what we are seeing in this document is totally different from what is being communicated to the Zambian people. So this document is telling you, giving you a specific number. But what the minister said in the National Assembly, which raised a lot of debates, I was amongst the people that debated to say you can't let it too open. The president can't just implore, or is it nominate many members as he wills. You see, but look at the document. The content says otherwise. That is why That is why I have indicated on several forums, even here, to say our colleagues needed to read this document before they can try and explain.
Does it vindicate government? That
it doesn't vindicate.
There's no ill intentions.
No. It actually brings in more questions than answers, because you can't go out there and tell the Zambian people something which is totally different from what is contained in the document. Because the other thing we'll see is government introducing a document that has got other provisions that were not spoken to, and they will come and tell you to say we did not speak to this. So the legitimacy and the honesty in the process is extremely important. Also, it's extremely important. We must speak to what is in these documents. When we give ourselves a document such as this, it's a proposal.
Just hold. Let me pick another set of calls. Hello, good morning. Endita mwashubuke mkwe.
Mkwe tre pusha kwa iki pusho pali didi ya shimkwe.
Tuendele wanani?
Mlelanda na Jainek kanshi.
Mletu mfuira kui saa na pa radio shan. Kwa Love Radio? Mkwe turemu mfonomba kutumashita contribute.
Mkwe tre pusha chi bushe pali constitution idaya ali mu 2016 niba ipuishe kopa kubika ko running mate elio na 50+1 bantu basata bali kushirire constitution balungu 2016 basafunya ili constitution ushenishi bai yaidile pantanshi kwa bulokula tarikana ngesile tarikana pali bile yana pwana wanu ye bantu balungu ipate moyine bali nida ku PF elo basushe afuya chile basata waleta ko 2 bushenga mwapita pibiri leo 3 muri constitution wakaisumina ifindi bakafifumyamo nelio bale kwa beto cyo kufumyamo fye nelio ifikapita bakafilika mu rupapulo elio chindi cha butabucha kuti punch ku 14 isha kusimira formula ndingi anga batwala ku koti ni kwale kutarikira kione kiri kufika mu busheshi bwe sinaba bali kunyamu nomba panza aho bali kubakyando kuti bali pingula kali kuti 14 days noma 14 days balunge kireru kino mulungu kimbi kyakuti bagira londolola bayisize tinga baba time form ati kuno kwa vacancy member of parliament elio bayisize kibakwiriye kulanda okuti mukubwa ya by election usheta kile pilibulo okutinga babe bakoso okuti kuno kuli by election bakuta inform panti baba eba mandate kutandwa my election leno nomba party iliya ine yasala omuntu usheta kile straight forward busheba bayisize tikishibale batula kuba by election wantu nakira tutonkanisa mukuti nangu ni mfumu mwine mushindafwa emfumu ili ngiri nesonta mwine mushishiro dupwa elo yena baye bakutachikulo kile kokupyanika bantu minina koshiyasi abadaba mwine mushi badawe ne balupwa bafumyo omuntu ati anaire mfumu ya ishi nati mukwanyu yile bampera akipale nene geta kulikuta kuba yisize ki kutwale batyo nyewo netina latira ando fyonte eto mule tulumbu yako tumulena ndia mukitungu kyapikana tatulesibu kwa panti fote efungira mukiyembo kuti ba speaker nga bayisha kuba yisize ki inspiration tabako cyama yakora kubeyo by election lejo pidwa kwa fote tunfinde kube bukisha kopye panti ebe minna kwa my election lelo pate efuyo kusana omuntu uwa mukonkere to bali no kusana bene bali ishibe bali dabale kamana mention kama mule tupilika tyo kwa my election nangu wawe bukisha kopye so tulondo liko kuino hapo.
Thank you so much for coming through. In case you're joining us, we are discussing the proposal to increase the number of nominated members of parliament. This is part of the proposals that government wants to amend ahead of the constitutional amendments number 7. This program is live on Parl FM. on 102.4 FM in Livingstone. In Kabwe, we're on 87.9 FM, and in Lusaka, we are on 91.3 FM. We're also live on FM on the Copperbot. Throughout the Copperbot, we are on 89.7 FM. We're also live on Radio Delight. We're also live on Breeze Esther. On Millennium Radio, we're live on 90.5 FM. That's for Lusaka. 93.5 FM. That's for Kabwe. 93.9 FM, Kapri Mposhi, and 100.1 FM in Ndola. We're also live on Radio Ichengelo, KFM Mansa. We're live as well on One Love Radio in Lusaka. And Mazabuka, we're on 104.1 FM. In Mansa, we're on 89.1 FM. And in Kasama, we're on 94.9 FM. In Mongo, we're on 87.7 FM. And in Siavonga, we are on 91.5 FM. We're also live on Baita FM. And so when you call us, tell us where you're listening from, and go ahead and give us your contribution. Let's pick another caller. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. We seem to have lost that caller. Come through and give us your contribution. The number to call us on is 0955 997 997. You can also call us on 0979 192 485. Those are the two lines that you can reach us on to be a part of the program this morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, is this Tonse NBC?
Where are you calling us from?
Hello?
Hello, where are you calling us from? Who's on the line and where are you calling us from?
Yes, we're talking to Chwamamura from Chinga Province.
Okay.
Yeah, the issue of these interpretating the constitutions and amendments. You know, you are dealing with a country where 3/4 of the people are ignorant. And they are illiterate and unconcerned about national affairs. Yeah, are you getting me?
Hear you.
Hello?
Go on, we can hear you. All right, we seem to have lost that caller, but let's quickly get your reactions from the calls that have come in so far. Let me start with you, Councillor Mukandila. Would you like to pick any of the comments that came through?
The problem with me is that I'm not able to hear what the callers are asking. So unless you tell me exactly, I could not get them properly.
One of the callers was asking, he wanted you to be very clear in explaining what happens when a political party loses a member of parliament. And when the speaker informs the Electoral Commission of Zambia, does the Electoral Commission of Zambia conduct fresh elections, or perhaps the party will have to elect a candidate that will replace that deceased MP?
Okay. So, to be very clear, that process is not a by-election. We must be very clear. That process is not a by-election. A by-election is only for independent member of parliament. So, let's assume there's an elected member of parliament for Livingstone, and the vacancy is created in Livingstone. So what will happen is that the speaker will inform ECZ. ECZ is going to give the date, place, and the time when that political party, that sponsored that person, whose seat has been vacated, a chance to elect a member to replace that person. So, for example, if that seat is being held by UNIP, so UNIP will be asked by ECZ. They will be given time, date, and place when they will do that. So, unity within the party, they are going to elect a person. So, that elected person, that name will be given to ECZ. ECZ is going to notify the speaker, and that vacancy will be filled. So, the purpose of ECZ there is not to conduct that election at all, but to help get an elected body, also elected candidate, and notify the National Assembly. So, ETZ is just a conveyor belt between the National Assembly and the political party. But it will give also guidelines on when, how long, and the place when that elected member will be brought, or the name will be brought to ETZ. ETZ will not conduct that election. It will not go to Livingstone and say, okay, now you start voting and we're waiting. No. Whatever the party will do, it's up to the party. But ETZ will just be waiting within the period of time that it is going to give that political party.
So maybe hold on. So this applies. Yeah. So this applies.
So it is not going to conduct that election. That election will be conducted solely by the party.
Yeah. So just hold your thought there. So this, Councillor Mukandila. So this applies to different situations when a member of parliament resigns from the party, when a member of parliament is convicted, when a member of parliament dies. Does it also, cater for all those aspects?
It caters for all those aspects.
Well, I think I may need to come in on that one. I think it's extremely important. We look at the text of the proposal. The text of a proposal is very clear. Like I indicated, it has indicated that the Speaker will inform the Electoral Commission of Zambia. The reason why you inform the Electoral Commission of Zambia is because they are being given a mandate constitutionally to conduct the election. However, and it's extremely important to understand, that's the reason we've been telling our colleagues to say, read these things. And also, why can they give us, certain things can be in the Electoral Process Act, the refined one that is coming along, like the process as to what exactly is going to be the involvement of the ECZ can be outlined in the Electoral Process Act. However, as it stands, the text tends to insinuate without any vague or absurdity or repugnance that the Electoral Commission of Zambia shall conduct this election. Now, maybe I can also try and give an idea to what Mr. Chanshi indicated with regards to these provisions and these proposals. With regards to what was in Bill 10, I may have to remind let's be very clear on that other proposal, because I think people have not gotten the real gist. According to you, Council, by-elections will happen if you as Tonse. It's a matter of semantics, and here is the thing. Our colleagues' proposal has this proposal. In fact, I will not call it our colleagues' proposal. I will say government's proposal on having by-elections is that they are only getting rid. So remember, the word by means two. We're looking at bipartisan elections. So in a democratic state like ours, we're looking at bipartisan. But however, when you look at an election as proposed in this provision, there still is going to be an election. The only difference is other political parties who are not the owners of this seat will not participate in that election. However, so make it make sense if the PF loses a member of parliament. It's the PF that will be conducting an election within the Patriotic Front. So you will have Celestine Mukandila there. You will have another person. You will have another person competing for a seat in Matero. You get it? So within that conducts it. According to the text of this provision, the Electoral Commission of Zambia shall be informed. And by virtue of that, it is given a direct mandate by the Constitution to involve itself in this election. So we need to read the text as they are. This text does not produce any repugnance or inconsistency. It is extremely clear. It doesn't produce any ambiguity. So I don't understand why our colleagues would want to insinuate that there is no by.
At 9, let's go beyond. Let's reach 12. The involvement of ETZ. Let's reach the involvement of ETZ. When you look at the proposed amendment, which is in section 9 of the bill, let's read 12, paragraph 12 of that proposal. It will tell you that the Electoral Commission shall, by regulation, set the date and the time for submission of the name of the person elected in accordance with Clause 8 to the Electoral Commission to assume the vacancy seat in the National Assembly. The ECZ will not involve itself in the partisan election.
The express, I believe in the maxim that expressio unius non exclusio.
Right.
The express mention of one thing is the express exclusion of another.
Gentlemen, I think we have to close it up from here because we need to get to the news at exactly 1200 hours. But thank you so much for being a part of the program this morning. Councillor Celestine Mukandila, we greatly appreciate that you came through to really enrich the program, as well as Councillor Makwinzaza, who was joining us remotely from Eastern Province. Thank you so much for being a part of the program this morning.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the listener.
All right, we'll be discussing the proposal to increase the number of nominated members of parliament. That is in the newly bill, that is Bill 7. My guest this morning have been Celestine Mukandila, a lawyer, as well as Makwinzaza, equally a lawyer. And this program has been on different media platforms.